Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I am so glad you're here. Today's date is Friday, September 26th, 2025. Well, one of the news items that I was reading with interest about this morning involved radar from last night and possibly even the night before. You see, there was according to NEXRAD, which is the national radar system, there was an extraordinary amount of bird migration, which was causing a lot of radar activity on the East Coast. And immediately, those who view mainstream news with skepticism said, how come just the East Coast? Now, granted, guys, this is the time of year when there is a migration from the north to the south by birds. And so we're in that migration pattern, but it just seemed like the activity on the East Coast was excessive, especially when I compared some of the NEXRAD videos to Birdcast, which follows bird migrations. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you. There'll be some links in the video description box if you want to do some looking. And the speculations have gone from possible to almost outlandish. If you accept knowing the world as it is today, it's hard to have something be outlandish. Did you know that back in 1955 there was a patent done for artificial birds? And think about how much technology has changed in the last 70 years. So I've had, I've read speculation that there were artificial bird drones mixed in with that this was cover for something happening in the skies, that they were trying to give a natural explanation to something that had a little bit of more than natural origin to it. So I thought that's a fabulous type of question to put to the universe. But first, let's ground ourselves with a little bit of data, and then we'll add in the woo and see what the universe wants us to know. I'm going to go to a share screen and just share a few little things with you, explain as I go. And as I said, there'll be some links in my video description box if you, and I hope you do a little looking and searching, because we have to learn how to do our own research, or at least confirm details before we jump on, incorrect bandwagons, etc. Okay, that's enough of the Laura's view on that. But I really, as a teacher, I just want people to be able to do that. Okay, first of all, this is one of the images of the unusual radar pattern that was shown in the night skies. Now, look here, you'll notice it's very heavy on the East Coast, and birds are migrating nationwide. Okay, and NEXRAD is a nationwide uh, service. So even though it is monitoring nationwide, the activity seems to be predominantly from about the central part of the US to the East Coast. Also, if you look at the patterns of these, birds are migrating south, and much of this is moving east from west to east, this activity. So that to me screams some suspicion. It was also doubled down when I looked at last night. You can see this is from the 26th of September. This is or pardon me, from earlier. This is some of the migration patterns that birdcast.com has talked about. And you can see there's significant activity here, heavy activity here. And birdcast shows kind of the flight path going on here. So yeah, there is an eastward trend, but on the East Coast, it's south and west. So they kind of go into a funnel-like thing through Texas and on south into Central Mexico, Central America, etc. So look at the difference. NEXRAD, while Birdcast is saying there's activity here, NEXRAD didn't pick up anything. Hmm. So I found that to be a little interesting, which lended some weight to some of the speculations I was reading on alt media. And then I took a peek over at the Schumann resonance charts, and you can see during the times that there was this heavy activity, the Schumann resonance was extremely active. And about the time it settled down, on the radar screens, the Schumann resonance settled down too. Now, it's important to note that the bird migration is heavy in the evening hours. They're avoiding thermal activity. So the first 3 hours before and after sundown and the first 3 hours before and after sunrise are the heaviest for bird migration. So that was kind of a natural event. The Schumann resonance charts, that is the heartbeat of the Earth. And it is, I believe, influenced by solar activity. And there are those, and I'm not saying I don't believe this, because I think it's a possibility, In fact, possibly pretty in the getting into the likely category, that the human collective, our consciousness also has some effect on that because we're energy and energy is picked up by the Schumann resonance. So, and everything's connected, right? Well, what is connected here, I think, is possibly that there's more going on with these radar screens that we're told to believe is just interesting bird migrations. And uh, and I think there might be more going on, but I'm not sure. And I wanted to ask the universe. So our question today for the universe is the alt media speculation accurate that there was more going on last night, particularly on the East Coast, than just bird migration, plus additional insights and information? So we want some information about those unusual radar uh, sightings and data that we got. I'm going to switch the camera, work with the cards, and we'll find out the answer to this question together. There was a lot of radar activity last night, especially on the eastern half of the United States, and meteorologists were trying to explain it away as simply being heavy bird migration. Getting picked up by the radar. But birdcast that follows bird migrations didn't seem to follow the same flight areas and didn't have the same activity areas that were shown by the nationwide NEXRAD radar. It makes us curious. Is there any truth to the speculation by alt media that there was more going on in the night skies last night than simply heavy bird migration plus additional insights and information? If so, okay, our first card is the Seven of Wands. We got a hard yes with the Ace of Wands. There was more going on. Anybody that speculated that that was just a cover story or not the complete truth, you were absolutely correct. We have the Three of Cups. For the recent past, our current is strength. So it looks like whatever was going on, it's nothing we really have to be too terribly concerned about. Interested, yes. Concerned, no. Near future, another hard yes with the Ace of Cups. These have additional meanings, but in my tarot reads, and the universe knows, aces are hard yeses. Then we have the Four of Swords. Again, that's got a little unique meaning for me. I'll explain as I read the cards. And King of Cups. I'll get a couple more cards because this does seem to be an interesting question. And it looks like, as I said, I'm not seeing anything too worrisome, but it's interesting. So it looks like what might have been happening last night is that there was some kind of conflict going on. There was that was being covered up by the radar data that was coming out, etc. And if you go to social media platforms, for example, X, and look, you're going to, and I'll put a link of one or two that had some information about those night skies and how it looked more like the frequency, the radio frequency data that or changes that due to our skies, etc. So there's speculation that there was a lot of EMF, electromagnetic frequency things going on last night, and more activity. But whatever it was, does seem to have there was an element of conflict to it, as far as what we're getting here from the Seven of Wands. Then the Ace of Wands kind of bolsters that. It's our clarifier, and it just talks about that. There was nothing worrisome, as I said. In fact, it's kind of like the start of something new. So we had maybe some energy influx or some power dynamic changes as a result of this conflict indication that are actually going to be beneficial. And indeed, the Three of Cups here, especially when we're not in politics, where it could talk about a red fluid, is just simply saying, there's actually some cause for some quiet, moderate celebration about what was going on. So it looks like whatever was happening was actually probably beneficial and to the good for humankind. Now, I say that because in the current we got the Strength card. Whatever's going on in the skies has gotten us to a place where I believe the white hats and the plans that are of benefit to mankind are actually in a stronger position. Strength card is just self-explanatory, guys. Self-explanatory strength, boom. And with an infinite aspect to it. if you can tap into it correctly. So let's look at the near future. We got the Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups is, besides being a hard yes for us, talks about there's a potential for some connection, an emotional fulfillment, because cups are our emotion suit, and got lots of water in this card. So again, we're told to watch the water, and the skies bring our rain and storms, etc. So that's for the near future. But again, a positive aspect to it is the fact that it's talking about that there's some good potentials for some good changes. So whatever was happening in the skies, like I said, it ultimately is to our benefit, whatever was going on. Now, this is a card I mentioned that it's got, and I've explained it in other videos, but I've got some newer watchers. Okay. If you look at the traditional meaning of the Four of Swords, it's about taking a time of rest, and that there's some things that aren't yet in the public eye, and that is indeed where it emphasizes it for me as far as what it's saying. Often this card shows up when the universe is saying, we're honoring your request for information, but there's more that we just can't share or don't intend to divulge at this time, because I don't want to impact any operational safety, etc., things like that. I want to ask my questions without having artificial constraints on them, and let the universe do that constraining. And the Four of Swords tells me that there's more information. So some of what's going on was going on last night. We're getting lots of reassurances about it. Don't worry, it's interesting. There's more than just birds, so look up. But it is to some extent birds. So do those things you do during migration periods. Have your outdoor lights off as much as possible so that the birds don't get confused and off their flight path, etc. So that's nice, just to be in a good human to do that. Let's look here. We got the King of Cups as far as looking ahead, and King of Cups is he's very much in charge of his emotions, and that helps him to be in charge of situations. Again, lots of water showing up in both of these cups cards, and all the cups cards liquids are predominant, and those are kind of a nod to the fact that, our planet is probably just over 70% water, so that there's things going on away from land masses that are of interest to us. Let's get those additional cards. I said we get to see what was going on. King of Swords, one of my white hat cards. Beautiful card that is good to just go, oh, good, I'm glad you showed up. The Six of Cups. Another ace with the Ace of Swords. And our final card, another reassuring card, even though it's to a lot of readers, this is a problematic card. For me, it's not. But again, as with so many things in life, it's our perspective on it. This card says anxiety, things to worry about. But to me, it also says, but there's not nearly as much to worry about as you're thinking there is. So again, let's watch this data. I don't know why they've decided to filter and siphon the truth for us in this case of what's going on in the skies. I think we have a right to know. I don't know that we have a need to know, but we have a right to know. And let's watch it with interest, but not with any trepidation or anxiety. Let's recap. Last night, there was some unusual activity noted on NEXRAD, our radar system here in the United States. It was explained away by meteorologists as being the annual migration of birds, but there were sharp-eyed anons, that's regular people that do their own thinking and to some extent their own research, that said, I don't think that explains it. And indeed, earlier in the video, I looked at some of the bird cast migration from recent data, which shows some of the patterns and the flight path areas, and then the radar activity that was noted as being rather unusual, that was being explained as bird migrations. They weren't going the right way to migrate, number one. And number two, there was a lack of radar picking up for those migration patterns on the West Coast. And so it was just an unusually heavy amount of data being picked up by the radar on the East Coast of the United States. And as I said, Sharp-Eyed Anon said, what's going on? There's more going on in the skies than we're being told. And I will have some links in the video description box that you can follow a few things for yourself if you want to see. But we asked the universe, are these speculation in the alt media community, is it accurate that there's more going on in the skies than just the annual migration patterns that are so heavy? It's also worth noting that the number of birds that were migrating according to Birdcast, which does that as their sole purpose, and what was being claimed by the NEXRAD was far, far different. They're just much higher was being claimed by the NEXRAD. So it didn't make a lot of sense. We also took a peek at Schumann resonance chart. For last in the last 24 hours, there's been a lot of activity. It hit 30 at one point, and just wondered if that was to some extent maybe what was going on, that there was, was that a little additional confirmation that there was more going on in the skies than simply bird migrations. And we got 3 out of 4 available aces in the tarot deck, which are always a hard yes for me. They showed up throughout the read. The Ace of Wands, the Ace of Swords, and the Ace of Cups all showed up saying, oh yes, there was more going on in the skies than just bird migration. And it looked like there was an element of conflict to what was happening in the skies. So there was being some pushback for whatever was incoming or being done. I don't know if they were trying to oppose some um, upgrade energy that was headed to the United States, or if there was some drone activity that was going on. There's speculation that the Schumann might have been a nod to some increased EMF activity last night, and that could have been deliberate and maybe not always with the best of intentions. But whatever happened, it didn't roll out in the way that they hoped, because we got card after card saying, there's more going on than you were told. Duh. What else is new? But there's nothing to worry about, or very little to worry about compared to the things you might be speculating were going on in the skies. So that's what we got. There was more going on. It looks like it was a mix of activities that were going on. It wasn't just the birds. But as I said, birds are migrating this time of year, and there's some tips that are available to you if you look at birdcast.com of doing your part as a good human to help them in that process, which is like turning off unnecessary outdoor lights, etc. But let's keep an eye on the skies, because it's not just the birds up there, and it's interesting. And while we're told not to worry about it, I want to know more, don't you? And hopefully we will soon. That's it for this video. I thank you so much for your time and your attention. I appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you for being here. As always, use your logic, your discernment, and you decide what is accurate, possible, unlikely, or downright silly. Okay? Don't take anybody's word for it, including mine. If you're willing to receive it, I send you love, light, and I wish you everything bright. Bye.